Good to go. Thank you, Adam. Hi, everybody. Good morning. We'd like to welcome you all to our webinar, Promoting Student Interaction and Engagement in Remote Learning. My name is Jasmine Parent. I'm a learning technology consultant with Teaching and Learning Services at McGill. I'm here today with a colleague who will be co-hosting the webinar with me, Adam Finkelstein, who is the Associate Director at TLS. We want to let you know that this session is being recorded. If you prefer not to be visible, you can turn off your video so that you don't appear in the recording. I would also like to note that you are muted upon entry, so we ask you to hold off with questions while we present. We will be setting aside some time at the end of the webinar to address some of your questions. And finally, I'd like to say that the slides for this webinar will be posted when we post the recording. So let's get started. We're going to start by going over the goals we have for this webinar. Our goal for today's webinar is to define what engagement and interaction mean in the context of a remote learning and teaching and learning environment. We will also be identifying technologies and strategies that you can use to include fixed and flexible activities to promote engagement in your course. So let's define what we mean when we say engagement and interaction. The concept of engagement and interaction in education is a multifaceted one. Before giving you strategies on how to increase engagement, we think it's important to realize that there are different modes of engagement and interaction when it comes to education. So interaction can occur through students engaging with the course content. It can occur between students, and it can occur between an instructor and a student. Something to keep in mind in a remote learning environment is that instructors and a student's peers can sometimes seem like these mystical figures that only exist behind a screen. In this type of environment, since students don't have that physical connection to the university, their connection to you and to other students in their class often becomes that main connection they have to the institution itself. So because of this, it's really important to foster some rapport with your students and then give them the opportunities to connect with each other. Creating a sense of community is essential to learning. So this is really important in a remote learning environment. And it's important to be very intentional with how you design strategies to increase engagement, and that these strategies align with your learning outcomes. So this will help your students achieve a more deep and meaningful learning experience. In the following slides, we're going to present you with ideas and strategies of how you can promote engagement and ultimately create that type of deeper learning experience in a remote environment. So I'm going to pass the next section to my colleague, Adam. Adam, you can take it away.
Would help if I unmute. That's one of the first things in any sort of fixed engagement, is to make sure you unmute yourself before you start talking and waving your arms and looking like a maniac as you're trying to discuss things. So thanks a lot, Jasmine. And I think we talked a little bit about this in our previous webinars around, fixed and flexible activities, and in this case, fixed and flexible strategies that you want to think about using with your students to engage them. So if we continue on to this slide that we talked about before, we really have two different types of engagement strategies. One is fixed interaction strategies, where all the students are with each other and with you at the same time, generally, if you're going to do that with students, and that students are participating online together. So these are things that we'll talk about some examples in a moment, but it's contrary to flexible strategies where you don't have to have people in the same place at the same time being able to do the activities together. These are where students have a lot more choice in terms of time where they choose to engage with a particular activity that you want them to do. And what we often recommend is some combination of the two, and that's what's important today in the session. We'll talk a little bit about fixed strategies, and we'll talk a little bit about flexible strategies, and these are things that you can do with your students to really kind of amp up the level of engagement, so it's not just sort of a seminar of delivery of information, but really an interactive and engaging course that you're going to do with your students. So if we continue on with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the fixed activities, and we're doing one of them now, which is kind of a hint. But one of the things I want to mention is that if you think about this interaction where we're all together in a class, it's very similar or analogous to a face-to-face classroom in that we're all together at the same time. We're all in the same quote unquote room. And what's really interesting is an example here that we have, which talks about fixed activities for a Zoom class. And it talks about all the different things that you might want to do in that class to get students engaged. So this is a great adaptation from Minnesota that we'll put the links up available after the session. And it talks about through a sample sort of 1 hour class. We're also working on some other examples of like what you could do with a 90-minute class, what you could do with 3 hours. But the same kind of rules apply where you're trying to intersperse this engaged activity with talking and delivery of particular pieces of content or information. So for example, here we've got 5 minutes dedicated at the beginning with a whiteboarding activity. So having students think about ideas and throwing them up online. You can actually have students engage and interact with the session that you are doing. We could have you draw on the screen if we wanted to design things that way. Thanks for Carolyn in the chat who's posted that link to the example agenda. You could start off with a whiteboard, move to a polling activity where you're asking questions and gathering feedback and looking at people's answers. Then maybe do a 10-minute mini lecture where you're delivering a particular concept or example or watching a video about it or something along those lines. And then maybe after that mini lecture, have another repoll. You know, this is what you might have thought of before. Here's what you're thinking about now. Let's see where people's ideas are. After that, of course, might have a smaller group discussion by using the breakout rooms features in Zoom to actually break out into small groups of 4 or 5 or something along those lines to be able to do that. And then also then having a debrief after that, and maybe even after that having a chat that you might want to have in text that's going on at the same time. Then maybe having a debrief for the whole session, wrapping it up, and then thinking about what you're going to do next. So what we're really urging you to do is think about those ideas around a fixed activity like a Zoom class and really time it out and think, what are you going to do with each one of those chunks of activities that you want to match with your learning outcomes? So if we want to, let's talk about a little bit more detail of 3 different types of fixed activities and link it to the framework that Jasmine was talking about before. So for example, what we're going to talk about are 3 things using 2 different tools. The first is instructor-student interaction. We're going to talk about a little bit more about the live class with Zoom, kind of like what we're doing right now. And then in terms of student-student interaction, we're going to talk about breakout rooms. And with those breakout rooms, we're going to use Zoom as the example. And then student content interaction, we're going to talk about Zoom. We're going to talk about Turning Point, which is really the best polling software that we have at McGill to be able to engage students. So if we go forward with the first one, which talks about a fixed activity where you're really promoting that instructor-student interaction, there's a lot of things at your disposal that you have in Zoom. So for example, the chat. And I can see right now a whole bunch of questions bouncing through in the chat. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that you may want to really decide when you want to have the chat. So for example, I can, if I wish, on my security tab, disable the chat. So we could actually have a session where I'm going to talk for a few minutes. Everybody's just going to clearly kind of focus on what we're doing and then enable the chat, and everybody will move to the chat. The nice thing about doing that and pairing it together is that you don't have to keep track of the chat as you're going. If you have a TA, keeping track of the chat's a great example. And actually Carolyn's helping out a lot here today, and Jasmine responding in the chat, which is one of the things you can use with your TAs to have them do that. Could even be some students in the class, but it is hard to multitask and do those 2 things at once. So it's something you may want to do where say, now we're going to chat, now we're not going to chat. And you can enable and disable that in the interface. In addition, you have the ability to share your screen, share any application, do example modeling in Stella, load up SPSS and run some things that you're doing with statistics, giving a sample model, play a video, all that sort of stuff. As well as sharing your screen. In addition, there's a fun little reactions button that's there. If you click on it, you'll see a general thumbs up or a clap that's kind of useful where you can gauge interest with the group. In addition, below the participants, you'll see a yes, no, go slower, go faster, and a more button that allows you to give a thumbs up or thumbs down. So one of the things I want everybody to do right now is go to that little list, click on more on the icons below your name, and give me a thumbs up if this is something that you think would be really interesting for you to do in your class, is use some of these reaction tools. All right, now I'm getting 9, 10. It's starting, it's like sprinkling across the whole group there. That's great. And now that you're doing an activity, I can turn to the chat and look and say, oh yes, Patricia. In fact, yes, the host or co-host can enable or disable the chat as an example. Perfect, so let's move on to the next fixed activity that we wanted to talk about. And that's the idea of student-student interaction. And this is one of the things Zoom is great for. It is one of the only tools around on the planet that does an amazing job of having students break out into groups and come back together again. What's really nice about this is that you can start with everybody in the same room, so where we are right now, and then I can use the breakout features to break everybody out in 3 different ways. The first is I have the ability to break everybody out randomly. I can say, okay, random groups of 2, we're gonna just have a quick short discussion, everybody go. And everybody splits out into those groups. And then from there, you can actually bring everybody back together to have that group discussion so that everybody can work together. So it's, you know, you can do it randomly. You can also manually do it. So if you have a smaller group, you could maybe make 4 groups and put people into those groups if you want live. And in addition, you have the ability to do all of this in advance. So you can actually have students sign up for groups in my courses, let's say, and then actually take those groups and you can upload a list of groups that you're gonna wanna do for breakouts. So you can split people up into, let's say, groups with their TA and then have your TA move around. The nice thing about these breakout rooms that I should mention is that you as the instructor can actually pop into these breakout rooms, anyone that you'd like. You can sort of like, essentially like walking around a real classroom. And what's really important about this breakout feature is that this is the closest thing that you can get to really mimic the kind of interactive, active engagement that you're gonna do in a live classroom, where you talk about something, you have students work together, you walk around, kind of see what's going on, and then you bring it all back together. In addition to walking around and popping into those rooms, you can actually be summoned, not really summoned, but you can be waved on and the students can go, please, please come see us. And you'll get a notification that says, oh, I'm gonna go over and pop into that and see. There are, of course, some limitations with breakout rooms. You can't have more than 200 people in a breakout room, although I'm not sure 200 people in a breakout room would actually be easy to work with. It's a lot of people. And you can't have more than 50 breakout rooms at once. So those are little limitations you'll have to work through and work with. Okay, so then the last fixed activity I wanted to mention here was talking about student content interaction. So we talked a little bit about earlier when we were talking about the student instructor interaction is different kinds of version. I did a mini poll kind of with you already, but there's basically 3 levels of polling that I want to mention. The first is a quick poll, and this is really the yes, no kind of thing you can do with Zoom that's on the fly, that's spontaneous. I can say, if everybody likes this idea of quick polling, click the green checkbox. So go ahead. Click the green checkbox. It's right below participants. There we go, 10, 11, 12, boom, boom, boom. I'm seeing green checkboxes float around in that participants list. You can see that there. If you're ever wondering how to get to those, you've got to click on the participants at the bottom of your screen, which shows all the people. And then you have all these options at the bottom, the yes, no, go slower, go faster, etc. So again, I'm going to clear everybody, but that's something that you can do to create those yes, no questions. And we're going to do a yes, no question in a second. The second is Zoom polling. And this is using Zoom to do polling. And all of the resources on how to do this are going to be posted online after the session. And you can actually get access to them and it goes step by step. It's very easy to do. You can create a poll in advance. You have to do this in advance. It's very hard to do it on the fly, but you can have a question where you get a list of multiple choice options and actually ask a question that people respond. A great way of being interactive with the content. You could do knowledge checks and all sorts of things like that. The last one I want to mention here, which is really important, is the sophisticated version, which is polling at McGill. This is the same polling system we've always been using in our face-to-face classrooms. It works online in just as fantastic a way of doing that. It is really good at doing sophisticated polling. You want to ask somebody at the beginning and then follow up afterwards and connect the data. You want to see who responded. You want to do complex, so let's say word clouds, all that sort of stuff's available. Now I should mention that we have another webinar that actually is starting this afternoon on Zoom that goes into more details here. And in addition, we have another webinar that talks about polling at McGill that goes into details about setting that up. And I would really urge you to look at both of those polling opportunities to do. So next we're going to try a quick little activity, and we've done a little bit of that before. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of polling, and want to say, how likely are you to use a poll in your upcoming teaching? So just click the green checkbox if it's likely, red X if it's not likely, and let's just see who's going to who respond. So great. So a lot of people are planning to use polling. And Ken brings up a really good question that I'm just going to address right now, is that if you look at the levels of sophistication, polling really matches with how much do you want to do. If you want to do some really good, consistent, sort of sophisticated kind of polling, you're going to want to use polling at McGill. If you've used polling before and you're transitioning in the fall, I would use polling at McGill. If you want to do just some basic ask and answer questions, kind of like what I've done now as an example, you can use Zoom, sort of these red checks and questions, or you can use the Zoom polling. But there are some serious limitations to Zoom polling that we go on later on that you can look at. That are talked about more in our Zoom workshop, our Zoom webinar, and we would sort of look at it that way. So look at it as quick, sort of moderate, and really sophisticated. It depends on where you lie. Okay, so I think that I will sort of pass the question from there back over to Jasmine, who's going to talk about flexible activities.
Thank you so much, Adam. So let's talk a little bit about flexible interactive learning activities. There are different ways in which you can get your students to interact and engage more deeply with your content. One way to do so is by adding quick and low stakes learning activities to the flow of your content. So we suggest adding active learning activities between content topics rather than presenting long pieces of content and giving your students knowledge checks at the end of a module. You might want to consider staggering or alternating your content with an activity. So just to clarify, when I say content, I mean your course materials. So your PowerPoint slides, your readings, your articles, maybe videos. And the activities are interactive pieces that allow your students to practice understanding the content. They are active learning pieces. So activities can be self-assessments, quiz questions, a survey question, or perhaps a discussion prompt. Short activities like these give your students an opportunity to check in with their learning, but they also shift their focus from just listening and reading passively to being a little more active with their learning. So you can use these types of activities as knowledge checks after you present an idea, or you might want to use them as a way to get them thinking about the next content topic that you're going to present. Microsoft Teams is available to McGill students through the Office 365 suite. So students often use multiple platforms to organize their group work. They might be using Google Drive or OneDrive to share files, Skype or video chat to meet virtually, or another platform to chat or brainstorm. So rather than having them go to 5 different places to do a group project remotely, they can use Teams to achieve all of these tasks. So Teams allows students to create a team, they can add their peers, have conversations, upload and be working on files simultaneously, and they can have virtual meetings. And best of all, it's provided and supported by McGill, so it's free. So this is the big one, discussion boards, namely my course's discussion boards. So discussion boards are an excellent tool to promote engagement and interaction. The discussion board can be used to achieve all modes of interaction in remote learning. So let's talk about each of those modes. So you can have students interact with your content by using the discussion board for a place of reflection or self-assessment. You can ask question prompts that give them an opportunity to deeply reflect on what they know and what they understand, maybe what they don't. You can also use discussion boards to have students answer topic or reading-based questions, for example. So having them write a short summary of a reading that you want them to do, or answer questions about readings. I have here an example of a discussion board from the World of Chemistry course. As you can see within Unit 2, there are multiple discussion questions about topics that are within that unit. It's also a way for you to pinpoint troubled areas where you might need to make clarifications on your material depending on what misconceptions might arise in those discussion boards. So instructor to student interaction. You can interact with your students using the discussion board. Here you can see an example of a forum that's used for students to ask questions to the instructor or the TA to have them clarify misunderstandings, have them post questions about the course or the content. This can be a time saver for yourself and your TAs, especially if you're receiving emails with frequently asked questions. Rather than getting back to each student individually, you could answer them all by posting a response on your Q&A discussion board. You can also use the discussion board to get to know your students. So at the beginning of the semester, you might want to post an introductory video or a post about yourself, and then have your students introduce themselves on the discussion board. This facilitates instructor to student interaction, but it also is an opportunity to facilitate student to student interaction in a really nice way, easy way to build a sense of community. And finally, you might not know this, but I've seen instructors use the discussion board as a place for students to post reflective journals. So you can set it up so that only you and a student can view their individual journal entries. So throughout the semester, students will answer a question or reflect on material in which you can provide very personalized feedback to each student. The discussion board is also a really great place for students to connect with each other. You can have a forum dedicated to a student cafe where students can ask questions to each other or have conversations. It's an opportunity for students to share their own forms of content with each other. So they might want to share interesting articles or videos or websites. It's even a place for them to give each other reminders of due dates, etc. So it's really a really nice place for students to connect with their peers. You can also set up a discussion forum specifically for group work. So students within a group will only be able to see their group's discussion forum. And I have an example in the coming slides. In general, discussion boards are really great because they can result in more thought-provoking responses. It gives students more opportunity or more time to think and discuss about course content versus in a live class. And one of my favorite things about a discussion board is that it also may be a place for the more reserved and quiet students to feel comfortable asking questions or posting their thoughts versus in a face-to-face lecture setting. Oh, that's a weird animation. So we have some recommended practices that we would like to share for discussion boards. Concerning feedback, you might want to consider very basic feedback practices or more sophisticated. So you can set up your discussion posts to allow for upvotes and star ratings from yourself or from other students. There are also more sophisticated ways to give feedback. So using a rubric with defined criteria on what you expect, and then assessing how well they've met that criteria on your rubric. Here's a very basic example of a rubric that might be used for a discussion board. So you can create your own, decide what constitutes as poor or good or excellent, and so on. You can also link the discussion, a discussion topic to your gradebook. So if you want to use the discussion topic for assessment purposes, that is also possible. Some strategies to increase interaction on the discussion boards can vary depending on your course and your context. You can create smaller discussion groups. An example shown here, especially if you have a larger class. So it might be a little bit easier and a little more intimate for students to discuss topics in 5 or 10 groups instead of a big course. Sometimes their posts can get lost. You can design an activity where interaction is necessary. So for example, you can tell your students that they're required to post one post of their own and reply to at least one of their peers' posts. You can also include the setting that students cannot see their peers' posts until they make their first post. So this might be useful if you're asking a question and you don't want students to be influenced by their other classmates before they post their own answers and their thoughts. It's also important to consider the question type for the prompt. So it's a better practice to ask more open-ended questions or perhaps multiple questions that students can choose from. This just avoids having students write very short or one-word responses that really don't facilitate any form of response from their peers or discussion. So one last thing to think about is how you will manage the communications in your discussion board. So first, it's a really good idea to set expectations for your students. So give students specific directions as to minimum number of words required, minimum number of references or examples, and what your standards might be regarding the formality of language. Is participation required? How often are you expecting them to post? Will you value quality over quantity? Things like this. So here's an example of some basic guidelines that are given to students regarding a discussion board. As you can see, the second guideline is be polite, which is another communication management strategy that I want to talk about. So establishing rules for netiquette is important. So netiquette in a nutshell is online communication etiquette. So it's important to clarify that abusive or offensive communication will not be tolerated. You can also clarify that you expect students to write academically or avoid, using emojis or slang, online slang, and perhaps ensure proper citations and references. Finally, you might want to consider how your discussion board will be moderated. So are you going to be moderating the posts? Are you going to be reading everything that students write? Or will your TA be moderating? There have been some cases I've also seen instructors assign student moderators in the class. So as you can see, there are many things to consider and many ways in which you can use the discussion board to promote engagement and interaction. It might seem overwhelming, but discussion boards can really provide active and social learning opportunities. And remote learning can sometimes feel very isolating for students when they can't see their peers in real life. So using a discussion board is a nice opportunity to set up a space where people can connect and feel a little less alone.
Jasmine, I
Yep.
just want to jump in. There's been some conversation in the chat a little bit about that specifically, that sometimes discussions, in the discussion boards are hard to get going. And I just wanted to point out, of course, that this fall we're in a very different scenario. And I think you just really, nailed it there, where, in a remote learning scenario or remote teaching scenario, students want to connect. I mean, there's a lot of starving for connection with people. Some of the students are feeling very alone in their houses by themselves. And I think that we'll see a little bit of a different scenario this fall than in the past, but obviously designing those discussions, as you were really talking about, are critical to kind of get things going, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And even starting off with some of the strategies, like requiring them to make one post and one reply, you'd be surprised with how much students end up contributing from my experience. So that was pretty much my conclusion. I just wanted to say that it's a unique opportunity to get students to process content more deeply, ask questions, debate, and then also share their diverse perspectives.
There is one question that we might as well address as we're going here. Laura here in the chat was asking about, could you elaborate a little bit more on the student cafe idea?
Yeah, so it's kind of something that you can set up that you don't even really have to touch. It's just a forum that you give space for students to connect with each other. I've seen it used where students have shared, interesting things. They've shared questions that they've had that other students would answer. You don't have to moderate it yourself. It's kind of nice to just step back and let students do their thing, unless obviously there are some problems with netiquette or whatnot. But they can't set up a forum themselves. They can't set up a topic in my courses. So it's just an opportunity for you to do that and then give them kind of the floor to connect with each other. So I don't know if that answers your question, but. Should we move on to the conclusion?
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so just wrapping up before we start to get to some more questions. Again, if you're new to my courses, you should see in my courses a link to My Courses Essentials. And My Courses Essentials gives a lot of the kind of the basics, get yourself going with my courses in kind of a tutorial way that can really help you out getting started as a good review, leading you through some of the things that we've alluded to or talked about today. There's a section on discussions there. And you'll notice also the circle there, there's 67 posts in the discussion board in My Courses Essentials already. So you can go in, read them, post, reply, we monitor that. And it's a really important opportunity for you to engage with questions if you want from right within a particular course. And the My Courses Essentials page, if it's not there, it should be there if you're an instructor. And what happens is every night it's refreshed. So it's possible that you may just have to wait till the next day. However, if you aren't there and there's some reason, it's been a day or so and you still don't see it there, just send an email to itsupport@mcgill.ca, and IT support will be able to make sure that you you get in. We'd also like to remind you about a couple of the next webinars that are really critical. So the ones that at the top that we've talked to here about planning are ones that were on last week, and they're wrapping up this week, the planning for remote delivery and designing assessments. And we're really in the next level there, which is really this week and the next couple of weeks, that are talking about much more specific implementation questions that are related to setting up your course to be interactive, preparing course content, creating assessments, managing your course. There's managing Zoom meetings. There's also other ones that are there that we've got are polling at McGill, which is another one to see. Again, all of those are available online. All of those are available on the exact same page that I posted a couple times in the chat that I'm going to post again here. That page has the summary of past webinars, it's got resources, it's got links, and it's got links to all the next webinars that you can sign up for. There are 2 more today alone that you can go to. And don't worry if you missed them, you can always catch the video. Okay, so with that, we wanted to open it up to questions, and I think probably the best thing to do is we'll look through a bit in the chat to see if there's some things that either I've missed or Jasmine's missed, as well as if you have any other questions, post those in the chat, and we'll see if we can address those over the next couple of next 10 minutes or so. Again, I think it's been great. Thank you for coming to this session. And I think that there's a lot of other opportunities to learn, but I think the important thing here is that, there's a lot of fixed and flexible strategies that you can use to get your students engaged. And it's really, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that you can do. There's a lot of interaction in Zoom. There's a lot of opportunities in my courses that can really allow students to get involved and participate with not only you, but also with each other. We really urge you to do that. Okay, so let's just take a look here. And Jasmine, if there's some other ones you want to look back on, and we'll grab some of those questions.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to add to the thought that of the question we had previously about getting students to participate. And I think one thing that's important is, as an instructor, kind of modeling some of the expectations that you have for your students. So having a presence in the discussion board as well. Like, I've taken quite a few online courses, and within them, the ones that I've felt most compelled to interact on the discussion board with were ones where the instructor, I knew the instructor was reading what I was posting, and they would either respond, or they would maybe write like a conclusion kind of post after everybody had made their post. It just felt nice to be a little bit acknowledged and knew that the instructor was there, part of the conversation as well. So I think that's something also to consider whenever you want to keep a discussion going.
It's a great point. So there's a really good question here too that talks about different time zones and different continents. You're absolutely right. I mean, this is a really critical thing to think through. It's what we've talked about in the other webinars, that there is no guarantee that your students are in the same time zone as you. And so if you do fixed activities, you've got to be aware of that, and potentially, ideally, give them an alternative if it's possible. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. We would also urge you to ask your students. So ask them, where are they from? What time zone are they in? This is a great thing to ask at the beginning of your class, so that if there are students who are in particular problematic time zones, maybe you want to look for alternatives in advance. And that's something to really keep in mind, that whatever fixed activities you're doing, just be aware that there may be some time zone issues. You may also be lucky and have a course where everybody just happens to be an East Coast Standard, or maybe the students are actually all in Montreal and they're actually taking the course. You don't know that. I think it's worth finding out so you can make some adjustments in your planning. There's another here question on Camtasia. If you want to do self-directed activities, what are some advantages of recording through Zoom? Jasmine, you want to take that one on?
Advantages to Camtasia versus Zoom. Well, Zoom is quite limited to what you're kind of recording or doing in the moment. You can have some interactive components where you share your screen, but Camtasia can really produce more finessed, sophisticated videos. So if you want to bring in different types of media, and when I say media, I mean, you might have 2 videos, or you might have different images. You want to add annotations, animations. Camtasia is a lot more geared towards those type of videos. Like I said, Zoom is really just in the moment, right here, right now, if you're recording a lecture live or beforehand or after without students. So that's really the biggest differences. I would suggest having Camtasia videos like shorter videos, perhaps a tutorial or some sort of explanation.
I guess it's sort of one of those things where if you want to just like shoot it and it's ready to go, Zoom is really easy to
Yeah.
do. If you really want to play around and edit, Camtasia is awesome. I mean, it's a fantastic app for that. But keep in mind, it's work. It's not like you just magically get things edited. Like it takes time, resources, like of your time, and you have to work through making sure like suddenly you spent 4 hours editing a 2-minute video. So you have to really make sure you don't overdo it when it comes to the amount of time spent. But they're both really good for different sort of reasons.
We actually,
Sorry?
to add to that, we talk a little bit more about that in our preparing course content webinar.
Right, and that was yesterday, and the video's online, so you can actually go and watch it right after this if you like. So there are a couple of other good questions here about, can random breakout rooms be set up prior to Zoom meetings? Well, not random breakout rooms, but you can set up Zoom breakouts before the meeting if you'd like. When you want to do them randomly, you basically just hit Zoom rooms, hit the breakout rooms, decide you want 2 or 3 rooms, random, go, and it does it automatically. I think there's some questions about students all over the world. A lot of our resources online talk about fixed and flexible and the balance there. You have to make the decisions around what's the best balance for your course. And a lot of those will deal with that. One of the things that's really important too is if your students are all over the world, take advantage of it. I mean, if let's say you're teaching a course on food science, well, why not have them post what they had for breakfast and talk about it in a different country, in a different locale? So take advantage of the fact that they're distributed. I don't see it as a limitation, see it as a challenge that you could work into your course design. Okay, so another question here. The examples of activities of a 1.5 hour or 3 hour, we're working on those right now. You can see a link that'll be posted online about the sample one that we posted for Minnesota, which is basically a 50-minute. But there are some other things that you'll see shortly for other examples. So maybe Jasmine, do you want to pick another one that's there that people are asking about?
Yeah, I'm just reading through some of them. McGill, Lisa, I did email MedIT to have polling added to my Zoom account. They replied that currently McGill does not have a Zoom polling option. That's not true. That shouldn't be true. And they recommend using Turning Point. Absolutely, you can use Turning Point. It's more sophisticated. You can use both. I'm not sure why they're saying McGill doesn't have the Zoom polling option, but
no, what you do have to do is you have to go and turn it on. And so that's in the settings. Again, it's something that's talked about in our Zoom polling workshop, our Zoom workshop, I should say. A lot of things are hidden in the settings that if you're ever sure, go to mcgill.zoom.us, log in, and you'll see all these settings that you can tweak and change. You're going to have to explore. There's a lot of resources that we have on our site that goes into detail on that as well. So I'm looking for some other questions that we've got here. So another question to Jasmine, do you think it's enough for instructors to model what participation looks like? Is it necessary for the kinds of participation we'd like to encourage from Edward? So what about modeling that kind of participation in discussions?
The question is more like, do you think if that's enough or should you have required postings? I think you can have a mix of both and kind of test it out and see what works best with the group of people you have. Like that might even change from semester to semester, even within the same course. I think modeling is very important, but if it's something like, if it's a very important topic that you want to have students discuss on, maybe having some sort of participation incentive, like having a required post might be helpful to get the conversation going. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. There's some other questions here about sharing music from Zoom. I can assure you that the sharing of music and quality, one of the nice things you can share is not just your screen, but you can actually just share audio. So if you're teaching music, you can use audio sharing as a possibility. I can assure you that the quality is very high. So oftentimes with anything involved with all of these live sessions, it's always depending on your own connection. So if there was distortion or anything like that, you want to make sure that, you have enough bandwidth to do this at home, and maybe you and maybe 5 other family members are not trying to do Zoom calls at the same time, which is always an issue and something to keep in mind. I think there are some other, we talked about polling here, raising hands is a great idea. And some of the things around, another question about polling. Polling has to be set up in the web interface, not in the Zoom session. So you have to set it up outside before you come in and use it inside your class. So that's, again, something to keep in mind. Just looking through a couple of other questions in our last couple of minutes here.
Ken here has a question. Do you recommend having unmoderated student-to-student discussion boards or having them moderated? I think you should be reading most of what your students post, whether you respond or not, but I would suggest from a student perspective is having them mostly moderated, unless it's a student cafe, having some sort of presence there, whether it be you or your TA. It really does get the students, they know they're being watched and that you're reading their posts, and I think it does get them to participate a little bit more.
There is a question here that I got privately that I think would be great for you to address, that talks about the difference between forum and topic in my courses under discussions.
Yeah, so a forum, it's kind of a way to categorize your topics. So a forum you can create for maybe some basic type of discussion boards. You might have like chapter 1 or introduction, or where your student cafes would be. Your topics would be part of a forum, and that's where students can create a thread to respond to whatever question or prompt you have. So you can have multiple topics within a forum, but it's really just a way to get to organize your different topics. Students cannot respond to a forum. They have to respond to a topic itself.
So it's sort of like, you know, you got forums, topics, and then threads. It's like kind of like a cascade.
Yeah, so you have to have a forum in order to have a topic, and students cannot create a topic. You have to create it for them. They would only be able to create the threads, which are in response to a topic. So it's a little bit, it sounds a little bit complicated, but when you see it kind of in action, it makes more sense. But forum is essentially like a category for different topics.
So Ken has an interesting follow-up question with discussions to say that, you know, when should the instructor jump in? Like there's a tendency for the instructor to jump in and answer questions. What do you think is teasing that between having the students respond with having the instructor respond? What's that dynamic? What would you say is recommendation there?
I think that to some degree you should be letting your students respond to each other. But maybe at the end, like I said, having some sort of summary or conclusive post by the instructor after people have had their discussions might be helpful. I've seen cases where instructors do jump in when a student is saying something that is blatantly incorrect, that needs to be corrected. But other than that, you don't need to be responding to every single person, just maybe having a sort of summary at the end of that thread, just to let them know that you've read it.
I have to unmute and keep, forgetting. Do you think it would be, depending on the learning outcomes that you have, like maybe some topics you might want to have an active involvement in, other ones you might not, depending on what it is as well?
Yeah, and it also depends on your question too. But yeah, absolutely. Referring back to your learning outcomes is really important. If you have a question that requires a correct or an incorrect response versus an open-ended question where students are more expected to talk about their experience or their thoughts on a topic, that also is very different in how you might be present within that discussion forum.
Absolutely. Okay, so if we've got any other questions, I think now will be the time. We got probably about a minute left before we wrap things up. If anybody else has some questions they'd like to throw in the chat, that would be great. Again, we are going to make all of these resources available online in the link that I posted a couple of times there. Obviously all of the links that were even discussed in the chat, those will also all be on there, and you'll be able to review or watch this again without any problem. We do have a question from Catherine here. Is there any prompt to indicate when students have posted to discussions? Ooh, good question.
Well, you can see in my courses any unread discussion posts that are there. It will keep track of what you read and what you haven't. If you want, you can also put in your settings to get notifications when students post. I'm not sure if that's what your question is about, but it will let you know if you have unread discussion posts when you log in certain topics.
How about mobile access?
I feel like you're testing me, Adam.
I'm asking questions. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, so there's also a mobile app called Pulse that students or you can have on your phone. That is essentially My Courses in an app. And that will give you also updates on new posts. And your students can have this too, so they can get updates on people that might have responded to their posts or ones that they've subscribed to.
Yeah, so what's really nice about My Courses is that you can use it like just straight up log in on your phone. You don't even need to use the app if you don't want to. The app is kind of slicker and nicer. It's called Pulse. We can make a link to it in our resources that are available afterwards. But what is really nice is that you can just log in with your regular phone too, and you can write discussions anywhere. And it's an important thing for students too, because a lot of students are going to be accessing My Courses on this device. And it's really nice to be able to do that. And it also can go to the idea that promoting that kind of opportunity to get students talking, get them moving, prompt them. The easier it is for them to do, the easier it is for them to post, for sure. Okay, well, Kevin said you're getting a passing grade, so there's for you. Thanks, Kevin. I'm sure she was. She's an expert pro. I always learn stuff from her, so it's fabulous. Okay, so I think we're kind of at the end of our time. Is there any other comments that you want to make, Jasmine, or anybody else wants to ask before we wrap it up?
No, I think this has been a really interesting discussion. So
Great,
thank you
great
everyone
discussion.
for the great questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you all very much. That's fabulous. And we look forward to you at the many new webinars that are upcoming. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great day.